Namaste. Welcome to the third edition of the Global Festival of Oneness, organized by the Advaita Academy. This year, we have a new program introduced under the festival in which one text written by Adi Shankara will be discussed in great detail. The first in this series is the Prashnottara Ratnamalike, and the speaker Neema Majmudar will speak about the text over the next 5 sessions. Before we move on to the text, I would like to introduce the speaker. Neema Majmudar has studied Indian philosophy with Swami Dayananda Saraswati. And in addition to traditional Vedic studies, Neema Majmudar has a number of years of experience as a professional with the United Nations in the field of economic and social development. Since 1999, Neema ji has been giving conferences, conducting seminars and retreats across the world in the domain of personal development and philosophy. The seminars and retreats she conducts with her husband, Surya Tahura, incorporate concepts of Indian philosophy with Western psychology. They have created a bilingual website in French and English, which explains in modern style the vision of the traditional teaching of Advaita Vedanta. Welcome, Neema ji.
Thank you very much, Anuradha ji. And thank you very much, Nitin ji, for inviting me. And this is indeed a very innovative initiative because, we are actually covering one whole text of Jagadguru Adi Shankaracharya during these sessions. So there are 6 sessions and I will cover the whole text. And it's a very unique text by Adi Shankaracharya, where he basically, talks about, of course, he talks about the vision, but he also, it's in form of a question and answer. So it's he raises several questions and he answers those questions. And, and through this question and answer, what he does is he covers most of the vision of Vedanta. So it's a lovely format. And let's start with this text. We'll start with a prayer first. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha. Okay, so literally the meaning of the text, Prashnottara Ratnamalike, what it means is gem garland of questions and answers, right? So the first, always it is interesting that the style of Adi Shankaracharya is, before he even begins to write a text, he actually talks about, who is it for? And what is the result that it is going to give, right? What are you going to get out of this text? And this is something which is very important. Anything that you do in life, you need to know, why am I doing that? And what will it give me, right? And the study of Upanishads and study of Vedanta is not an exception to that. We need to be clear as to what is this study about and what is going to be the outcome. So the first verse is, Kaha khalu na alankriyate drashta adrashta artha sadhana patiyan asuya kanthas sthitaya Prashna Uttara Ratnamalike. So this is beautiful. It is in form of a question. Who will not be adorned? Who will not be embellished, right? By this, what? By kantastitaya, by memorizing this text. And what is this text? Prashna Uttara Ratnamalika. It's a gem and a garland of what? Prashna and Uttara. Question and answer. And what will it give you? Well, it will give you drishta, adrishta, artha, sadhana. Right? What does it mean? It will give you both seen and unseen results. And what is this? What is seen and unseen results, right? So what we do need to understand is our buddhi, our intellect, right? Human being is a great, it's a human being is a blessed janma. Why is it a blessed janma? Because we have a few things with us. We have a free will and a faculty of choice. Free will doesn't mean that you can just do whatever you want. It means that any situation that arises in front of you, you have a choice. Now, either you make a wise choice, or you make a kind of a random choice, or you make an impulsive choice, whatever it is, but you're not totally programmed. So that is one big privilege of a human being. Now, suppose you're given free will, right? And you're not given how to guide that free will. So that also becomes a problem, right? So Swamiji used to say, it's like having a car, but you don't know how to drive. So even though the car is wonderful, but if you don't know how to navigate, then it gets you into trouble. So along with free will comes our sense of dharma. And this sense of dharma that we have is innate to all human beings, right? So that means we have that sense, that is our privilege. And the third is we have a well-developed and not just a rudimentary sense of I. So sense of I means a sense of I. So what it means is a cow may not have a complex, right? That I'm fair or I'm dark, but a human being definitely looks at the world, compares oneself with everybody else, and then begins to have a complex. But why is it a privilege? It's a privilege because we have an intellect which is well developed, and which is a discerning intellect, and also it has a choice that there can be a pursuit which will make you ask the question that this sense of smallness that I feel, constant feel of lack or inadequacy or limitation, or just general void that I feel, there must be some solution to it. It can't be that this basic urge of mine has no solution at all. So that very intellect, which has complexes or based on sense of I, can also use a certain pramana, a means of knowledge, to get rid of this problem, to address this problem and to get rid of it. So what will this text do? Well, it will give you both seen and unseen results. And what are the seen and unseen results? The first, our search starts because we are a little uncomfortable, right? So most of the people who enter, any philosophy or any spiritual pursuit, they are looking for some answers which cannot be gained by normal pursuit in life. So what will this particular text do is give you insight into, the realities which you never imagined were the realities, right? And their realities are not just abstract realities. In a vision of them, so what the nature of I, right, is not this limited individual. I is what? Satchidanandatma, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. My God, where this person who's feeling small and inadequate is made to see that I'm one with Ishvara, Tattvamasi. So this is what we call the unseen result, because it is not immediately probably going to accrue to you, but this whole question and answer and this whole pursuit will get you to this final goal of life. But you don't have to wait, right? It's not like, oh, when I understand that, then I will be freed from all kinds of limitations and afflictions. And till then, I remain this small, insignificant human being. Even the way, right? Even the seen results are beautiful. Why are seen results beautiful? Because the whole methodology of Vedanta does two things. One is it indicates what nature of reality is, which is called Brahma Vidya. And the second thing is that those very texts, right, whether it is Upanishad or it is Bhagavad Gita or it is any of the Prakarana Granthas, which are authored by different teachers of Vedanta, they also show you the means to prepare yourself for this knowledge. So as you prepare yourself, and what is this preparation? Preparation is taking care of your emotional life, taking care of your raga dvesha, binding likes and dislikes, taking care of your dharma confusion, right? As I told you, that we all have an inbuilt program which tells us what is, the most, what is the right way to handle the situation. But at the same time, our own personal interests at times interfere, and they make us do things that we know is inappropriate. So that means all that, how do I handle all of this, bring dharma in my life, bring certain resilience in my life, take care of my emotional, projections, and also begin to develop a relatively healthy self-image. Because in order to own the reality that I am the whole, that I am one with Ishvara, psychologically, you cannot feel that I'm small and insignificant. That very mind has to embellish itself, right? So this is what we call, as you are studying this knowledge, these relative changes also take place in you. And this is why it really nourishes you as a human being on the way of recognizing that I'm the whole. I'm not limited individual. So this is why Adi Shankaracharya is saying, who will not benefit, right? When I give this vision of Vedanta, it nourishes every human being. So, at the beginning, I was just having a small conversation with Anuradhaji, and I was just telling her that, I travel around the world to teach Vedanta. And she was saying, but what brings other cultures, other country citizens into Vedanta? And that is because everybody, right? This is something that we need to understand. Vedanta is not culture specific. It is not the nationality specific. It's also not gender specific. Why? Because it actually addresses the most fundamental search of the human being. And what is that? Two kind of searches, whether we recognize or not. One is, how do I give certain meaning and purpose to my life, which makes my life, meaningful and not just, passing my time, without any direction. So that is a very essential part of, utilizing human privileges. And secondly, it's not just a philosophical inquiry into abstraction, but as you inquire into those realities, you change as a human being. It leads to personal transformation and you nourish yourself. So this is why it is so complete. And this is why Lord Adi Shankaracharya says that anybody who studies this text will benefit significantly, right, in their life. Okay, so now let's start the first question. Bhagavan, Kim Upadeya. So exactly, that's the thing. Oh Lord, what should we pursue, right? What is the pursuit? So this is something that, as I told you, that every human being, right, has to ask a question. And what is that question, right? What should I pursue in life? So it seems like, oh, that's a kind of a redundant question, because everybody, as you, you are born, people send you to school, right? Then they ask you to choose what you want to be. Do you want to be a doctor, or you want to be an IT person, or you want to be an engineer, or you want to be a business person? So it's all, and then, people, as soon as you graduate and you get a good job, people say, oh, now it's time to get married. So then they, take that's almost like a pursuit that everybody is kind of led to believe that this is the pursuit of life. And once you get married, then they'll all say, okay, now when the child is coming, then, grandchild. So this seems to be the pursuit of everyone, not only me, but everyone. So why is this question, what should I pursue? The question, what should I pursue, is because you recognize that behind all these pursuits, what you have is one search. And what is that search? The search is for fulfillment. That is your search, right? You want to be fulfilled. You want to be complete. You want to free yourself from all forms of smallness and inadequacy. And what you recognize is that these pursuits, right, of normal education, job, family, right, relationships, career, they are wonderful. We are not saying they are bad, right? We are not giving them a label. But what we are saying is they cannot satisfy your basic search. That limitation of what they can do has to be totally seen. And only when you see very clearly that neither I have been able to satisfy my basic urge, nor anybody else around me has been able to satisfy that need of theirs. Neither anybody in the past, nor no matter what I do in the future, no matter how I arrange my life, the way I'm going, this paradigm within which I'm working will not completely, right, take me away from smallness, from mortality, from all forms of limitation, right? Limitation in terms of time, limitation in terms of space, limitation in terms of knowledge, limitation in terms of power. It cannot solve that problem. And this is why what that person will then ask this question, then what should I pursue? Because what I want is this, and no matter what I do, doesn't get me there. So this is why this question, what should be pursued in life, right? So the answer to that is Guru Vachana. So that is an interesting answer, right? You would think that, oh, you have to pursue Brahman, you have to pursue the reality, or whatever that was to be your expectation, that you have to pursue the knowledge of your true self, which will actually free you from sense of limitation. But what is said is here, Guru Vachana. And so why Guru Vachana? Guru Vachanam, because, right, we search for our fulfillment without any real clarity as to what we are searching for. We just feel that discomfort within us, and we go to programs, we go to seminars, we go to spiritual talks, we read magazines which are spiritual. So that's all. We don't have so much clarity that, oh, I have done this so far in my life, and it has not given me what I want. Now I have to search. We don't have all this clarity. And even if you conclude that, you still don't know where to search, what will give you an answer. So this is why there is something called Ishvara Anugraha. And what is Ishvara Anugraha? This is extremely important. That Ishvara Anugraha, if you're really searching, right, what will happen is you will be connected to a teacher. And that teacher, right, who is the teacher? Well, if this is really your search, and if you're sincere in your search and you're asking for help, because you are helpless, because you don't know where the answers are, but you have to ask for it. And when you ask for it, what happens is Guru appears. Guru appears, and that is why Swamiji always used to say that Guru-Shishya relationship is a sacred relationship. Right? Why is it a sacred relationship? Depending upon your preparedness, depending upon your maturity. depending upon your clarity about what is the nature of your search, right? I mean, at least you want to be clear and you don't just want to depend upon somebody. Guru is not, you don't just want somebody to hang on to and surrender, but you want somebody to give you answers to certain questions, which are very basic questions, which are very fundamental questions. If you iterate your problem like that, then what will happen is you will be given a guru who can answer those questions. So this is why before you even begin to have clarity, right, you need to be connected to Guru. So this is where, a very essential link between your search and the teaching, which has answered to your search. What is the link? Link is Guru. And this is why we have so much reverence for Adi Shankaracharya. Why? Because he was Jagadguru. He was, his commentaries and his works are still used, right? So we studied with Swamiji, and all the Upanishads that we studied, Brahma Sutra, Bhagavad Gita, we studied with commentaries of Adi Shankaracharya. Why? Because they decipher this amazing, profound teaching, right? Makes it in a very logical, analytical way, so that Advaita doesn't become a matter of mysticism. It is not just some, personal truth that you discover. It is something, it is the truth, which is the reality, and it can be discovered through this teaching. So he has made it into very, this reality into something which is accessible by any seeker. So this is why any guru who belongs to a sampradaya where somebody has learned from the teacher and is passing on that knowledge. If you're connected to that person, then what happens is you can, your life gains a direction. So what you can pursue is somebody to guide you along your journey for your search. So this is what a spiritual teacher has to be pursued, right? Now, heyam kim, heyam api kim. So what is to be shunned? What needs to be given up? So akaryam. So what is akaryam? The inadequate or improper action. So what it means is, suppose you get a great guru, right? And he is very apt and very learned and is a lot of clarity in the vision. But in order to avail, right, and make use of that wisdom and use it to transform you, the first thing that we have to give up is what? Adharma. So akarya means inappropriate or inadequate action. So there are two little nuances. What does it mean, inappropriate action or inadequate action? So one thing is we tend to, right, not do what needs to be done in a situation. So what happens is, recently there was this child who came to me, and he was saying that during COVID, right, everything was online, and the exams were also, some of the exams were online, and it was very easy, right, to kind of copy from the book, because nobody's checking what is happening at home, right? So he said many of my classmates, they all decided, that, oh, it's so now this is a great opportunity, we can just copy from the text. But he decided to refrain from it, right? And when every other kid is doing, then, he decided not to do it. This is something which is what we call what? Refrain. What you have to give up is inappropriate act. So I said, but why did you make that decision? Because maybe if you don't, refer to the books, you will get less marks, than others. And don't you want to get higher marks? He says, yeah, I do want to get higher marks, but I want to deserve those marks. I don't want to find a shortcut and get those marks. I want to get it appropriately. Then I will be proud. if I get those marks, but if deep inside I know that I have done it through inappropriate means, then what will happen is I'll never be able to enjoy these marks, because there is a knower me that I don't deserve it. And the doer me, right, is actually pulled by this kind of this is what we call ragadvesha. Ragadvesha means your likes, your immediate concern. How do I get distinction in the class? How do I get ahead of everybody else? How do I secure admission in good universities? So there is this need of yours, and there is a possibility of satisfying that need with appropriate actions. But what we do is we take a shortcut. And as long as the mind is the type which takes those shortcuts, it is driven by, right? It is not driven by understanding of dharma and adharma. It is driven by one's own pressures. And as long as that person remains, you can have the best of the best teacher, but a mind is required in order to inquire into the truth, inquire into the realities, give up one's false notions. And if you have taken to falsehood, if your mind is only looking for, to please this person who has all these needs and all these insecurities, that mind can never have the patience, the ability, the clarity to listen to Guru Vachanam and make us, make sense of it and assimilate that knowledge. So this is why the condition is you can be given wonderful privileges in life. But in order to avail of those privileges, you need one thing, which is what we call a clear mind, a conflict-free mind, a mind which is not distorted mind. And otherwise, what will happen is you will be in midst of things, including a best teacher, but your ability to absorb and ability to benefit yourself will be limited because your mind is not prepared. So this is why what needs to be given up is, a mind which is taken to adharma. That needs to be taken up. Now, Kaha Guru, the next question. Kaha Guru. Who is Guru? Who can I call as a Guru, right? And this is something which is very beautiful, that who is real Guru, right? How do you define that person? Adhigata Tattvaha, Shishya Hitaya Udhyataha Satatam. This is wonderful. And it says the one who Adhigata means one who has understood Tattva. What is Tattva? The truth. And therefore, that is not enough condition, right? It says Shishya Hitaya, right? Is ever striving for Udhyataha Satatam. The person is always striving, always working hard. Udhyatam is making an effort. For what? Shishya Hitaya. Shishya Hitaya means for the benefit of a student. So this is why this is something which is important, that a teacher in some of the text, who is the teacher? Kshotriyam Brahmanishtham. And who is a Kshotriya? Kshotriya is what? Adhigataha Tattvaha. So the person through study of Upanishads, study of Bhagavad Gita, who has unsolved this problem centered on oneself, where you see yourself as small, insignificant, limited, mortal, and the person has understood that the essence of you, that one reality of you is this Satyam Dhanam Anantam Brahma, that reality which is indestructible, something which doesn't come and go, which doesn't have any attributes, which is always pure, free from all kind of modifications, which is the truth of not only you, your individuality, but truth of the entire universe. So that the person has understood. How did the person understand? Because the person has exposed oneself to this Guru Shishya Parampara, right? It is not possible for you to just come and arrive at this truth. In this life, it may happen, but somewhere along the line, this truth, because your perception and inference can only give you data about objects of the world. Here, the inquiry is about the nature of I, the nature of I in whose presence all the objects are known. So you can know the objects of the world, but you have no access to the knowledge of I. And this is why we need an independent means of knowledge, which is what it is, which is contained in Upanishads, which is contained in Bhagavad Gita. And you need a teacher to decipher that, right? And the teacher must have understood that reality the teacher has understood, right? But the person has understood is not enough, right? Why is it not enough? Because suppose I have understood and I keep telling you, you are the whole, you are one with Ishvara, right? And there is only one thing in this whole Jagat. Everything else is just Namarupa, just forms and name. And there is only one reality. And if I keep repeating this day in and day out, you may get some idea, but can you get clear understanding? It's not possible. So this is why what happens is, this is not something that the teacher just tells you and declares the final truth, and you are left to discover on your own through your meditations or whatever. It is not like that. It is something which needs to be communicated. You need to be shown how. And how in the teaching itself, there are what we call prakriyas. And what are prakriyas? Different methodologies are employed to make you see your truth, which is here and now with you. It's not a matter of belief. It's not matter of faith. It's matter of discovery. So this is why the teacher has to employ different methodologies. So that means you need a teacher who is equipped, not only has knowledge, but also is equipped with appropriate methodologies which belong to Sampradaya, this whole teaching tradition, which demystifies this teaching and makes you own up your truth clearly. So that is what the teacher has to have. That is teacher's qualification. But if the teacher has all of this, the teacher has methodology, the teacher knows the truth, but the teacher says, why should I bother, right? I know this reality and let me just ravel in this reality, teaching somebody, and making them see this truth. And they are at the same time, at times they're interested, at times their minds waver, and, they have their own projections and they have their own whatever, I have to work so much on that individual, and I have to clear up so many beliefs of that person before I make that person see the reality. And I also have to help the person grow in many different areas of life. This all is too much. All this is daunting, right? To accompany somebody in this journey of self-discovery, and is very hard. So if you think like that, then what will happen? Even if you know the reality, you will not engage with the students. So who is a guru? Who is a real guru? Is Shishya Hitaya Udhyataha Satatam. And my video is not paused. Somebody is writing a comment that my video is paused. I don't think so. Is it paused?
No, it's not paused. We can hear you.
Yeah, I can continue. Okay. So I think it's their connection maybe which is not good. Okay. So what it means is that Shishya Hitaya. So for the sake, you accompany this person, right? And you make that person the deserving recipient of knowledge, and you transfer this amazing knowledge to that person. So that means the teacher, even if the teacher has all the knowledge, has to make what? An effort, has to make an effort. So in different directions. which are the different directions you have to help. Sometimes the student may have ethical dilemmas, which are, that person is not able to solve very clearly. Sometimes the person has emotional, things which are coming up, which are coming on the way of understanding. So you have to accompany that. Sometimes people have cognitive blocks. They have such deep beliefs about who they are, about what the nature of the world is, what about the nature of Ishvara is. They are unable to come out of those intellectual blocks. And what do you need to do? You need to accompany them. And this is why constantly striving when the other person is struggling, and at times even projecting on you, right? Because of their own discomfort. Sometimes they may ask questions like, oh, I don't know whether this Vedanta is really valid or not. Their own frustration can come out, as some comments at times which are inappropriate. And the teacher has to be understanding of that and help the person in the journey. And so that is why satatam means always doing things for shishya hitaya, and that requires that extra effort. And this is why in one Upanishad it is said very beautifully. It is said that the student goes to the teacher and says, look at this sentence, it says madartham smara. The student says, you know the reality. You don't need to, you don't gain anything by transferring this reality. But I am the one who wants to know this truth. And madartham, for my sake, smara. Remember everything that you have learned, right? All the texts, all the different prakriyas, the methodologies, and at different stages in the development of the student, how to accompany that person and how to take that person out of different blocks that the person faces during this pursuit. So for me, may you do that, O teacher. So that's why there is a certain humility on part of the student, and the humility on part of the student, the interest on the part of the student will inspire the teacher, and teacher will make that extra effort. So this is why Guru Shishya Parampara is a dynamic. It's a dynamic. More the teacher is interested in the well-being of the student, wholesome well-being, not just technical knowledge, right? And the more the student is sincere, then what happens is, each one gives one's best to this teaching. And the real guru is, even if the student is struggling, at least you give your best because you are the role model. So this is the quality of a good teacher, a real guru who is very well established in this knowledge, but accompanying the student in this pursuit. Then, so, Tvaritam kim kartavyam vidusham. So, what is to be quickly done on part of this wise? So when a student comes to you, right, and you know tattva, you know the truth, and then what do you do for the other person? Samsara santati chedaha. So what? The cessation of the cycle of birth and death. This is something which is now, imagine, guru's job. What does the guru have to do, right? When the student comes, the job is very big. And what is this very big job? That you have to quickly stop this cycle of birth and death for the student. Now, how do you stop this birth and death? It's something which is going on for Anadi Kala, right? Anadi Kala means because we see creation as not one-time event. We see it as cyclical in nature. Cyclical in nature means there are manifestations, unmanifestations, manifestations, unmanifestations. This is why what happens is we have infinite karma. we have infinite karma, not only gained from this cycle of creation, but multiple. And this, how do you exhaust them? It's impossible to exhaust all these karmas, because by the time you exhaust some karma, you acquire some new karma. So that way, if you do also, karmas cannot be exhausted by doing appropriate actions. Appropriate actions will only give you what punya. Punya means the unseen results which are favorable, which will lead to some comfortable situation in the future. So that means punya cannot free you from this cycle of birth and death, because cycle of birth and death is caused by all the karma that are in your account, and doing good karma will only give you little better births, but they cannot free you from this cycle of birth and death. If you don't do anything, that also cannot give you, free you from cycle of birth and death. Why? Because if you are supposed to act, and if you choose not to act, it's again about using your faculty of choice and doing something which is inappropriate. And because you don't do what needs to be done, you're doing something else. And that's by your choice. And if not doing is by your choice, and something needs to be done, and you choose not to do it, then you have responsibility for it. And this is exactly what Lord Krishna was telling Arjuna, that this situation in which you find yourself, it requires a response. And suppose you choose to run away from the situation, don't think that you will absolve yourself of all the responsibility, because what needs to be done by you, and you have chosen to do something else. So what does it mean? That is now considered an inappropriate action. Inappropriate action because it's not what the situation calls for. And you will have consequences for that. And this is why what not doing also doesn't free you from samsara. Then what doing inappropriate action will give you papa. It will give you, produce uncomfortable situations for you. So how do you free the person from samsara? So this is why Adi Shankaracharya very emphatically says in his Bhashyam, karma is within the paradigm of avidya. So what is paradigm of avidya? I am a doer. I'm a small individual, and I have to engage in the world to get my fulfillment, and I have choices. So depending upon the kind of choices that I collapse, I'm given the outcomes, I'm given the result. This is what we call avidya paradigm. Avidya paradigm means as long as I'm in this paradigm, that I'm this individual and I have to do something, and through this doing, I get fulfillment. Sometimes my actions are appropriate, I'm rewarded for it. Sometimes my actions are not appropriate, and I have to somehow face consequence for that. Even if I choose not to do anything, I'm still within this paradigm, and I'm still making a choice of not doing something where actually maybe an action is warranted, action is called for, and that is still karma. It keeps me within that. So what doing, not doing, or inappropriate doing all keep you within samsara alone. And what does Guru have to do? What make the person cross this samsara? So how? Right? What will the teacher do which will help the person completely free from this samsara? And the person, what does the Guru do? The Guru gives knowledge. Guru gives jnana. And what knowledge? That you are not this small individual. Think about that which is most basic to you, right? Something which is your essential reality. Everything else comes and goes. So it's not that this body is not you. Of course, this you have a connection to this body, but the body is something which is changing all the time, right? It is undergoing change, right? Jayate, it is born. Then what? Asti, it survives. Vardhate, it grows. Then viparinamate, it undergoes metamorphosis. Then what? Then apakshiyate, it begins to decline, and then it is vinashyati. So this is what all the different stages that the body goes through. And but who am I essentially? In my presence, all these different stages are known, right? So I know my childhood. I know how I was when I was a teenager. I know, how my early adulthood was. So these are the things which are what we call the drishya. Drishya is seen by me. Druk, the presence which allows me to see all of this is not getting involved with what I see, right? The seer and seen, there is a difference. So this seer is something which is not either this body nor the mind. Why? Mind also comes and goes, right? So why? Because mind is nothing but thoughts. And in one day, we have so many different thoughts, right? So, and each thought, right? What is your relationship with the thought? You don't become thought, right? Before the thought came, you are there. While the thought is there, you're very much there. After the thought goes, you're very much there. Thoughts coming and going is what? Incidental, but the presence is constant. So the body undergoes change, the mind undergoes change, but there is a presence which allows you to witness different states of your body and your mind. And that presence is something which is not, it is always there. It doesn't come and go, right? And that presence is free from every karma. And that presence is really your true nature. And that is not individual to you. It is the universal presence, in whose presence every body comes, every mind comes, all the actions happen, and that remains uninvolved. And that is your truth right now. And if you know that, then what happens is the conclusion that I'm an individual and I'm a doer, that conclusion goes. And as that conclusion goes, there is nobody who owns up all these karma account. That there is nobody to say that I have done this action and I need to accrue result of this action, or I don't want to accrue any result. The person, the karta, disappears. Disappears doesn't mean that disappears physically. What? In the knowledge of what is what, in knowledge of tattva, what happens is this individuality becomes your incidental attribute. It's, of course, you have a connection with it for this lifetime, but this is not your essential nature. Your intrinsic nature, your swarupa, is this awareness, which is sat and chit, which is existence and awareness, which doesn't come and go. It doesn't come and go with changing bodies. It doesn't come and go with changing minds. It doesn't come and go with coming and going of the objects. And that one final reality you are, that you understand. And as you understand that, what will happen? Samsara nivritti. Samsara nivritti means this coming and going, right? As a karta, and acquiring, karma and experiencing result of that karma will go completely for that person. So what does Guru do? Guru helps that person to cross samsara by what? Showing the true nature of I. So that is what the job of a person is, to take that person to tattva. The person already has knowledge of that final truth, which is the truth of not one individual, it is truth of everything. And what is the job of the teacher? To make the other person recognize and own up that truth. And by doing that, what will that person gain? The person will gain freedom from the cycle of birth and death, which is perennial cycle of birth and death, where you come as only one entity in this vast jagat, and that itself is a setup for some suffering, some smallness, mortality, and everything. So this is what the Guru has to do, right? So now, Kim Moksha Taraha Bijam, right? So here it says, what is the seed of the tree of release, right? So what will lead to this release from this cycle of birth and death, then what exactly is explained here is Samyak Jnanam Kriya. Now here, Swamiji, my teacher, Swami Dayananda, he deciphers this Kriya Siddham in two ways. One is Kriya Siddham and the other is Kriya Asiddham. Because if you follow vowel Sandhi, it can be both, right? It can be Kriya Asiddham or Kriya Siddham. So what does it mean that this moksha, what is moksha? Moksha comes from the root munch. And what is this root? It says to be free. And moksha is the abstract noun. So freedom, right? So what will this person has to be freed from what? From this endless cycle of birth and death. Right? Sansara Santati Chedaha, that which is perennial, right? Through cycles of creation. The Anadi, the person is going on manifesting as different form. That what is the root cause of that? That person has to free oneself from. So, what is the root cause? The root cause is, as I told you, Kriya Siddha. Kriya Siddha means if you keep doing actions, right? Good actions will give you punya. No action will also, depending upon what is the nature of that, whether it was appropriate not doing, it will give you punya. If it was inappropriate not doing anything in that situation, it will give you papa. Inappropriate action will give you papa. So that means there is no way Kriya can take you to freedom from birth and death. Kriya will keep giving you punya and papa. So what can give you this is only what? Samyak Jnana. Samyak Jnana means the true nature of who you are. So that is what we call a paradigm shift. The paradigm shift of I'm not the doer, right? So it actually attacks the very cause. The doer gets outcomes. The doer chooses and the doer gets results, right? But I am the doer is a conclusion. And that conclusion is avidya based. Avidya based means not knowing your essence clearly. So what will the teacher do? How will that teacher free you from samsara? And that is by giving you samyak jnanam. Only through vidya. Samyak jnanam, knowledge you have that I exist. Knowledge you have that I am. But samyak is an adjective to jnanam. You know that I am, but what is real? What is your true nature? Through inquiry, what it shows you, body is your incidental attribute, mind is your incidental attribute, your intrinsic nature, your swarupa is only this the existence which doesn't cease to exist. And that existence is of the nature of awareness, which is because of which what everything else is evident, everything else is known. So this is what the teacher gives you, that knowledge, which is kriya asiddham, which cannot be gained by actions. Now, the second meaning of this is also kriya siddham. And what does it mean? Now, what was said in the first few verses, it can be brought in here. That what? Yes, knowledge is required for you to cross this ocean, but to prepare yourself for this knowledge, what happens is you need some, you need to continue to engage with the world. And what happens through this engagement, you prepare the mind. So this is called karma yoga. Karma yoga is converting. Please listen to me carefully. Karma yoga is not just, performing actions without expecting result. That is not karma yoga. What is karma yoga is, the definition of karma yoga is what the person who has discovered, right? That moksha is the final end. That my end is not just normal promotion and, family and career, and these are all wonderful things, but that's not my end in life. That maybe means to an end, but not an end in themselves. So the person who has discerned that clearly, but what all these different roles that one is playing, right? One need not, who's a karma yogi, you need not give up these roles, but you make use of these roles to what give you an insight into which are the areas of growth that I need, and what make use of those different situations, different relationships, different roles to what evolve as a relatively as a human being, because a prepared mind is required to own up this knowledge. So that means samyak knowledge will only become knowledge for you if you have converted your life from being just a karmi to being a karma yogi. Karma yogi means moksha is the end, and the life pursuits become what means through which one cleanses. In Sanskrit, we call it Antahkarana Shuddhi. Antahkarana Shuddhi means Shuddhi is purification of what? Antahkarana. Antahkarana, Karana is instrument, and Antah means internal instrument, which is the mind, because mind is the place where knowledge takes place, and that's why it requires a certain purity. And this is why that person will gain samyak knowledge by preparing the mind and making it relatively pure. Right? So this is what the teacher has to do for the student. Okay. Now, kaha pathya taraha. What is more beneficial than anything else? Right? So the next answer, what is beneficial than anything else, is dharmaha. And what is dharmaha? So righteousness. And what does it mean? As I told you, according to the Vedas and according to Bhagavad Gita, there are two kinds of very important dharma which are talked about. One is called samanya dharma, and the other is called swadharma. So we have to understand a little bit. As I told you, that human beings, right, have this whole thing of dharma because we have faculty of choice. We are not totally programmed, right? Now, along with this faculty of choice, as I told you, certain innate understanding of what is right and what is wrong, it has come, right, to guide that faculty of choice. So what does it mean? What it means is everybody, right, from a very young age, they know that I don't want to be hurt. And also what others don't want to be hurt. The child also knows I don't want to be cheated, right? And also knows others don't want the same. The child also knows that, I don't want to be lied to, and others don't want the same from me. So this is what we call your natural program. This is Ishvara's gift. Ishvara's gift to all of us so that we can use our faculty of choice meaningfully. But as we grow, what happens is different kind of inputs start coming, right? Sometimes we see parents saying one thing and doing something else, right? So that confuses us a little bit. The teachers tell us one thing and their behavior is also at times something else. That also confuses us. Then what? We ourselves have our own pressures, right? I want to be good. I want to be successful. I want to be this. I want to be that. And that creates a little pressure. Why does it create a little pressure? Because my self-image depends upon what accomplishments I have, right? Otherwise, I feel I'm useless, I'm no good. So that means I have pressure to prove myself to myself and also to the world. So when a situation arises, like I told you, this child, right, who had the possibility to copy during COVID because he was taking, the exam from home, there is a pressure that is created. Oh, wow, through this, I'll get better marks. Oh, my admission in university depends upon these better marks. So why not take this opportunity and make most of it? And what the child actually overlooks is the fact that if I keep, trying to find shortcuts and accomplish, get things without deserving them, so one day it will catch up with me. So what I don't have, I have the marks, but I don't have appropriate knowledge to deserve those marks because I've created shortcuts for myself to get those marks. And over a period of time, in order to succeed in any discipline, what you need to ultimately deserve it. You need to have competencies. You need to have qualities. Without certain qualities, it's very, very hard to sustain. You can get things, of course, by shortcuts. That's why people go for it. But when you get things, but what these conflicts do not go away. That is intangible. We don't see that. And what happens, we have seen now, right? So many people, they got engaged in business and they, started malpractices and all. And 5 years along the line, 10 years along the line, they are all caught. They thought they were invincible. They thought that they were very powerful. But what? And then their whole life, was totally destroyed. So, and even if nobody catches you, you always have fear. Every time you open the newspaper, somebody else is caught. And what will it do to you? You yourself are going to be all stressed out. So this is why dharma becomes important for a mind which is conflict-free. And this is why Swamiji has a very beautiful book called Valley of Values. I think everybody in this world has to read this book called Valley of Values. Why? Because this book shows that values are not lived for others. You are not doing anybody else a favor by sticking to this Ishvara's program that is innate in you. If you think that you are doing others a favor, or you are being kind to the society, then what will happen? One day you may feel disappointed. You may feel disappointed that there is no recognition for my being good. But if you convert it and if you tell yourself, I'm being good for myself. Why? Because I want a conflict-free mind. I want a mind which is not all distorted, which has not lost a certain, which has worked against Ishvara's program and created confusion, distortions for me. From there is conflict, there is stress, there is guilt, there is hurt, all of that, and that's a bad bargain. That's a bad bargain because if I'm stuck with a mind like this, and if I'm surrounded by all the luxuries, I'm unable to enjoy it. So if my interest is to enjoy, whatever I have, then the first condition is I need a mind which is conflict-free. And in order to have a mind which is conflict-free, it is important to adhere to dharma, which is Ishvara's program. That is non-negotiable. So this is what we call dharma becomes a foundation. Without dharma, mind is too confused to enjoy anything. Forget even inquiring into the reality. Even simple things in life cannot be enjoyed with a mind which is all distorted, right? So this becomes a foundation. Samanya dharma becomes a foundation. Now, Vedas also talk about something else, and which is very unique and very interesting. This is called Swadharma. And Swadharma is slightly different from Samanya Dharma. What is Swadharma? Swadharma is, that you are born, right, on this earth. It's not just a random event or anything, right? It's not just something which just kind of happened that from nothing you just popped up on this earth. That you are given a specific place in the grand scheme of things. You have your own a unique place in the grand scheme of things. So what does it mean? So the two examples we can see just to understand what does it mean, right? So there is, suppose there is a musical concert going. So many of you, the philosophers love music also. Suppose you go to a classical concert, right? There is a tabla player, and then there is sitar, or there is, anything else, and there is a singer. So what happens is, right, the tabla player doesn't always have a prominence, but there is a time that the musician, the vocalist, gives the stage to this tabla player, and that time he demonstrates his talents, right? He or she demonstrates all the talents that he has. So what does it mean? That each one has a role to play at a given point in time, right? And they all have to do the right thing at the right time in order to create the harmony. And that harmony moves us all totally, and we are all put in trance. But if each one says that, hey, it's only about me, and I want to prove myself, and I don't care about the others, then what happens is that whole harmony is lost. So this is how, if you now take the Jagat what is all like one cosmic yajna that is going on. This is how in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna describes this whole world, right? It's a one big yajna going on, and each one of us, right, we are given our place in the grand scheme of things, and we have to perform what we have to perform. And that means every role that we play, right, whether it is a role of a parent, or a role of a child, or role of an employer or an employee, role of a friend, a community member, a national a citizen of a nation, all or a citizen, global citizen, all these roles we have to play, with certain awareness and certain responsibility. In different roles, we may have different sphere of influence. What does it mean? At home, you have probably more influence. At work, you have more influence. When it comes to whole humanity and nations, your influence may be little less, but you still have responsibility. And by doing what needs to be done, what happens is you grow. You grow because Swamiji used to say that, there are two kinds of societies in this world. One is right-based society. People are very aware of their rights and they are fighting for their rights, which is okay. But he says Vedic Dharma is what duty-based society. And what is duty-based society? The focus is not what is my right, what the society owes to me. The focus is what can I do, right? It's a completely different way. What is my duty? And if everybody performs their duty very well, then what happens is rights of others are automatically ensured. Nobody needs to demand that. Nobody needs to fight for it, because everybody is focused on one's own participation, one's own contribution, and one challenges oneself, right, to be the best. And while doing that, what you the benefit of that kind of a person is experienced by the whole society. So this is what we call Swadharma. What that Swadharma means, you take all things don't just happen. Every role is played deliberately, responsibly, with awareness and with conscious effort. And that is when you do that, that becomes you become a solid human being, not a person who is just roaming from here to there. There is this solidity that will become the foundation. It will become foundation for your spirituality. That is essential. So if suppose with you try to build a very big building without a foundation, it will collapse. So similarly, your spirituality is based, the foundation of your spirituality is in dharma. That is a basic that we need to all evolve, right? And that is something which is non-negotiable, right? So dharma is that which is what samanya dharma and swadharma. Then kaha shuchihi iha. Who is the pure person here? Right? So that is the next question, because what we have said is what dharma gives you antakarana shuddhi. What living a life of dharma gives you a mind which is conflict-free, which is clear, which is noble, which is abiding in truth and not carried away with its own fancies. So, Shuchikaha, who is the pure person here? Yasya manasam shuddha, whose mind is pure. Now, there is this book, as I told you, uh, uh, by Swamiji called Value of Values, in which talks about 20 values which are given in Bhagavad Gita in the 13th chapter. And one of the values is Shaucham. Shaucham is cleanliness. And when suppose you can say, external cleanliness, I understand, right? That so every day you mop the house, you clean the house, you broom the house. So all that I know. But how do you clean the mind? What do I do? How do I keep my mind clean? So, and there are four things that are talked about in that. How do you clean your mind? So there are four kinds of ashaucham that we all have, right? And we all need to address it. The first is the ashaucham of hatred and resentment. So what happens is, when we live our life, right? So either that we have gone through, each human being has gone through different things in life, right? Different situations. Sometimes people have been kind kind to you. Some people have been a little bit difficult for you. Some people you think have actively done things to harm you. Sometimes you think that you as a nation is threatened by some external forces. So what happens is, over a period of time, if this story goes on being repeated in your head, then what happens is your mind develops what we call hatred and resentment. So there is a difference between doing what needs to be done in that given situation, but not from what is the point. The point is, where do you operate from? By doing what needs to be done, and not through this hatred and resentment. So suppose, let's go back to Bhagavad Gita, right? So let's look at Arjuna. Maybe initially, when he was in the forest for 12 years, there was a certain hatred and resentment for his brothers, right? Because he saw that how they have been so unfair, and how they treated his wife. So there was definitely some personal a little bit of this revenge, or showing them teaching them the lesson or something like that. Then when he came to the battlefield, he totally broke down. He broke down and he says, my God, this mass destruction, and ultimately they are all my loved ones, they are all my family. And then also he did not want to fight. So initially, look at this. He wanted to fight, but as from a place of revenge, place of retaliation, place of, hey, I have to teach them a lesson, right? Because there was a certain element of hatred and certain element of resentment there. Then he decided not to fight. Now, what Lord Krishna says is, if it's not about what you choose, right? But it is about the reasons why you choose what you choose, which is important. If you continue to fight, right, this battle as just kind of, getting back to your cousins who have been unfair to you, it'll be just a personal battle, right? Like you have been wronged, and now you want to teach somebody a lesson. This is a personal agenda. It's not bad or good, but it's a personal agenda. If you don't want to fight, then what also it is escaping a difficult situation, right? And which is required, where your intervention is required. So that is also not appropriate. So what you have to do is, you have to fight, but not from this place of resentment and hatred, but from your duty. What is this situation, right? The whole kingdom of Hastinapura is at stake. The subjects are going to be impacted by who is the king, and you are not just some random person in the kingdom. You're a prince, and you're a leader, and you're highly skilled, and you have to stand up for what is good for the whole kingdom. And you can't have an unrighteous king ruling, because it impacts lives, many lives for generations. So this is the place from where, Arjuna, you have to do what needs to be done, right? Not from hatred and resentment. So that means giving up hatred and resentment and still following Swadharma and doing what needs to be done. This is a huge thing in life, right? Not from this dissatisfied. The actions, where do they come from? Do the actions come from a dissatisfied human being, or actions come from a person who is clear, who has clarity about one's role in the grand scheme of things and doing what needs to be done? So this is what we call ashaucha. Ashaucha means uncleanliness of hatred and resentment has to go for everybody. And what does it mean? You can revisit whatever happened to you in life, and you can see, suppose, sometimes it's not like everybody is always nice to you, but you can see the limitations of that other person. You can see their confusion, but at the same time, you choose consciously, right? You consciously choose to move on and not to get stuck with your hatred and your resentment, because what it will do is it will contaminate your mind. The mind which is filled with hatred can never be a free mind. So this is why that needs to be taken care of. But that doesn't mean you don't have to do what needs to be done, right? So that balance is very important. Then there is a second ashaucha, uncleanliness, which is what we call self-centeredness. What is the second? What is self-centeredness? We all have come with what relationship, as I told you, special relationship with one given body and mind. So certain amount of what connection or taking care of ourselves is you can't avoid, right? So it's not like you have to become totally selfless and lose yourself or anything. Lord Krishna was very, very very aware, right? So he did not let Duryodhana, when he had gone to negotiate, to bring peace and to avoid the war. Duryodhana was a little, insulting towards him. He doesn't let him do that. He walks out and, he stops him. So that is good. That is wonderful, because you can't have complete no sense of self. But if you're self-centered, then what means is you become narcissistic. So what means is the whole focus is you, and you are least bothered, or you're totally oblivious to the impact your actions are going to have on others. So you're driven, your driving force is only your raga and desha, your likes and dislikes. What you like, you want to go for. What you dislike, you want to avoid. What is comfortable for you, you want to pursue. What is uncomfortable for you, you want to avoid. So this cannot be the basis. So that means the self-centeredness has to go. You have to have a healthy self-image, but not being self-centered. And what does it mean? As you begin to nourish yourself, as you begin to nurture yourself, and you're not bruised by anger and resentment and all of that, naturally what will happen is you will reach out to people. You will be kind to others, right? Because you are well. You need to be well in order to reach out. So otherwise you are constantly trying to address all the things that are going on, discomforts that you feel, and your attention is only you and outside world, and your responsibilities become very, very bleak in your head. So this is where what giving up that thing means. What you need to understand your responsibility towards others, and also understand your interconnectedness with others. And what does it mean? The other's well-being also ultimately leads to your well-being. Why? Because we are all part of one grand order of Ishvara. Okay. Yeah. So I will stop in 1 minute. Yeah. Oh, only 10 minutes are remaining. Okay. So sorry. But what
you can share some more. I mean, you can say some. You can take another 5 more minutes.
Yeah, I'll take 5 more minutes, right? So this is what we free ourselves from self-centeredness. And there are two other things, and then I will finish, right? In just 2 minutes, I will finish. The other ashaucham is self-criticism. So what we also need to free ourselves from is what this constant voice within ourselves, which keeps beating us up. Right? Oh, you didn't do this well. Oh, you could be better. Oh, haven't you learned this? Oh, you're not spiritual because you got angry today. So this kind of beating up, right? Yourself, we have to discover self-compassion first. Yes, we have to be alert and we have to guide our mind to antakarana shuddhi, of course, but not through critical voice within us, but through nurturing voice within us. So that is a shaucham that we have to take care of. And the fourth is jealousy. And what is jealousy? Jealousy is when you feel small and when you see somebody excelling, then what happens is you feel even smaller. And as you feel even smaller, what is the natural tendency of the mind? To bring this person down. So bring this person down so that you feel a little bit better. So this tendency we have to all look into and we have to curb. And when somebody is doing well, actually you can convert it and you can praise that person. And if you want to be good, the focus is on improving yourself rather than putting somebody down. So this is what we call shaucham, right? So dharma is required, and ultimately not only dharma, but what a clean mind is required, which includes beyond dharma these things, right? Freeing yourself from jealousy, self-criticism, self-centeredness, and hatred and resentment. So this is what we have seen today, and I will end the class today with this. Now I will open to question and answer session, and then at 8:30 is the end. Right. Sorry. Thank you, Nitin, for reminding me. When I start talking, then it just flows. So thank you.
Thank you, Neema ji. That was a wonderful session where you led us through how to prepare a student for this knowledge. What is the role of moksha? What is moksha? What is dharma? And the last 2 points that you made were very valuable, which is getting rid of the ashaucham called self-centeredness and self-criticism. Really, we've never seen these as ashaucham. We just thought it was the natural nature of the mind, but they are really, really ashaucham. And that was a brilliant session. And we are looking forward for more sessions like this. There are a couple of questions, which is one of the first is, can you mention the names of the books that you have, that you mentioned some books, apparently they want to know what are those. So if you can just maybe if it's too many lists,
No, in fact, I think I have just spoken about one book, and that I think is a must for everybody. Everybody will feel that it is helped them, right? It is called Value of Values by Swami Dayananda Saraswati.
I'll just put it out here in the chat.
Yeah.
It's called Value of Values.
I teach it in some of my classes, and people said, initially we thought, okay, values is like we are all good human beings and we are, but how many insights, as you said, like self-criticism, you don't see it as a shaucham. So those things are pointed out, and it's a very, very helpful book.
I had one question.
Yes.
This text, does its format is a question-answer format?
Yes.
Is there a common theme running, or are these just random questions that are put out? How is the structure of this text?
Yeah, see, the structure of the text is, you're right. I mean, it seems like, that they are just kind of random questions and he's just answering those questions. But if we saw that, right, like today's session, right, what does he talk about? That how important it is for you to figure out what is the purpose of your life. Then what, who will you go to? Then you have to go to a teacher. What kind of teacher do you need, right? So, the person has to be learned and also has to think about well-being. Then what will that teacher do? So help you free yourself from samsara. How will that person free you from samsara? Through knowledge and preparing you for this knowledge, and not through karma. Otherwise, karma will only keep you in the same paradigm. So imagine in these 4 verses, how many different aspects of teaching are kind of covered, but in a question answer form, because that the human mind is curious, and so there is some repetition, but he uses those repetitions to highlight something else. So this is the teaching style, that you first explain the teaching through some questions, and then you come back to those questions and you elaborate them a little bit and a little bit more and a little bit more. So this is how it goes.
Ma'am, are there any traditional commentaries on this text, or are there any modern expositions on this text that people can?
Thank you so much for asking that question, because to be honest, when Nitin approached me to do this Prashnottara Ratnamalike, I actually had not studied it with Swamiji. And then, my husband Surya said that there is this book of Swamiji called Talks and Essays. And there, in one section, he has covered the whole text. The whole text of this is given here, right? So I have also referred to that. So when I'm teaching, I've also referred to that. Yeah, Talks and Essays by Swami Dayananda.
Yeah, I've shared that number. Okay. Will we have access to? Yes, these are all. They'll be all on YouTube and Facebook. You can see them later also. Somebody's asked that question.
Yeah, please encourage, because these are simple. It's not very involved, but at the same time, it just tells you everything that you need to know. And this is why it is Ratnamalika, right? Yes. And that will only benefit you. So.
Any other closing remarks you would like to make on this text?
So just, if you can be a little bit, consistent and finish the text, you will see the richness, of this teaching, even though it's very simple, but it's very profound and it's very comprehensive. It actually addresses everything, all the fundamental points about which you have to be very clear. What can karma do? What is knowledge? Or what is the role of a guru? What is your search? All these questions are brilliantly answered in a simple format. So, please be there, and you'll definitely benefit from it.
We have one question, ma'am, and that is, Swaminathan ji has this question. Every object grasped by our senses appears to exhibit two properties or characteristics, astitva and prakashatva. Are they separate of each other? That's the question.
No. So, very good. Every object is what? Asti, I think this is what he's saying. Asti and bhati. Asti and bhati means that object is, and that object is also able to reveal itself to me, right? Prakashitva. So this is, they are not two separate things. So if it was not there, there is no question of revealing itself to me. If it was revealing, if it is there, but if it doesn't reveal itself to me, there is no way for me to know it. So that means Asti and Bhati is a thing of everything, right? Every object has these two things. They are not two things. It's one thing which has Astitvam and Bhatitvam, right? So that means it is, and it reveals itself to me. Now, there is only one thing in this universe, which is Swayam Asti and Swayam Bhati, and that is Atma. Right? You don't need it, it is self-revealing presence and self-existing presence, in whose presence everything else gets known. So that is what we call, that reality is who you are, right? And that is what we need to understand. So every object becomes revealed to yourself, and there is one thing which is self-revealing and self-existing. And that is that reality, which is the final truth of everything. That is what we need to know. But Asti and Bhati are not two different things. It is one thing, because Advaita means there is only one. Right? So.
Thank you so much for clearly explaining that query. Thank you very much, ma'am. Neema ji, I'm very sorry I mispronounced your name as Majmudar earlier.
That's a very common thing.
Majmudar. I seriously, I just completely missed that.
No, No problem.
So viewers, please do tune in to the next 5 sessions of this extremely interesting text. Tomorrow morning also we have the same, at the same time, Neema ji will be talking to us about it. Today evening, we have some more sessions and I'd like to give some details about that. L. Ramaswamy ji will be talking to us about practical spirituality, Advaita Vedanta and self-management. This is at India time, 7 p.m. So see you all there. Thank you so much and namaste.